Good morning, everyone. My name is Preet Bharara, and I'm the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Today we announce the first ever criminal charges arising from a referral from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB. We unseal charges against Mission Settlement Agency, a purported debt settlement company, and 6 of its executives and employees. As alleged, Mission preyed upon the financial desperation of people all around the country who, like so many ordinary Americans, were simply struggling to pay down their debts after the financial downturn. Mission promised to slash debts nearly in half for just $49 a month in fees, but as alleged in the indictment, Mission's promises were too good to be true. The true mission of Mission turned out to be fraud and deceit, and for more than 1,000 customers, the dream of debt relief turned into a nightmare of deeper debt trouble. For their roles in the fraud, today's indictment charges the following individuals, as well as Mission itself. Michael Levitas, who operated and controlled the company, and who used the proceeds of the fraud to pay for, among other things, the operating expenses of the Rasputin, a nightclub he controlled in Brooklyn. Dennis Kurliand, the vice president of sales at the company. Boris Schulman, a sales representative at Mission, and Manuel Cruz, a Mission employee who assisted with customer solicitation. Today we also announced charges against 2 other Mission sales representatives, Felix Lembersky and Zakir Shirinov. These 2 employees have been separately charged and have already pled guilty for their roles in the fraud. In addition, we have filed papers to restrain approximately 40 bank accounts and have moved to forfeit 2 real properties in order to preserve funds for potential victims. Now, before getting to the details of the fraud, let me introduce our team in this matter. First, I am joined here today by Richard Cordray, the director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is the agency, as I mentioned, that referred the investigation to us in the first place. My office is especially honored to work with the CFPB on this case because these are the first criminal charges ever brought anywhere in the country that are based on a referral from that agency. And today's case is, I believe, a harbinger of an especially potent partnership that will benefit hardworking Americans everywhere. So I want to thank all of those at the CFPB who have made today's case possible, in addition to the director. I want to thank Kent Marcus, the Director of Enforcement at CFPB, Anthony Alexis, Deputy Enforcement Director for Field Litigation, Jeff Ehrlich, Assistant Litigation Deputy for Field Litigation, Stephanie Iser-Goldblatt, who's an alum of this office, in fact, and Jennifer Lee. I'm also joined today by our investigative partner in this and so many other consumer fraud cases, the United States Postal Inspection Service, represented by Inspector in Charge Phil Bartlett and Tom Boyle, Assistant Inspector in Charge. I want to thank as well Supervisors Rob Darrick and Andy Trilling, and Postal Inspectors Melissa Atkin, Eleanor Berry, and Rob Clark for their really great work on this case. And finally, as always, I want to express my appreciation to the career prosecutors who have conducted the meticulous investigation that have led to today's results. Assistant United States Attorneys Nicole Friedlander, Edward Imperatori, and Carolina Fornos, as well as Michael Bosworth and Richard Tarlow, the chiefs of our Complex Frauds Unit, and Sharon Cohen-Levin, the chief of our Asset Forfeiture Unit. I'd also like to thank Eric Blackman, a supervisory criminal investigator in our office, for his really important contributions to this case. So now let me describe the allegations in the indictment in just a little bit of detail. Beginning in 2009, in the throes of the financial crisis, Mission began to hold itself out as a company that could help people lower their credit card and bank debts. It told prospective customers it could do so by negotiating on their behalf with the credit card companies and banks they owed money to. And so here's how Mission allegedly duped prospective customers. Customers would be asked to make affordable monthly payments for a set period of time in accordance with a payment schedule established by Mission. These payments would be held in escrow by a third-party payment processor until Mission had negotiated down customers' debt obligations, and the money held in escrow would then be used to pay the creditors, or so customers were told. But as alleged, Mission tricked people into becoming its customers with what were essentially a parade of lies. Meanwhile, the lead defendant allegedly used some of the fees to pay the operating expenses of his Rasputin nightclub, lease payments for 2 Mercedes, and pay credit card bills for his mother. Let me mention some of the false representations described in the indictment. First, Mission and other defendants allegedly lied about and/or concealed Mission's fees. Mission repeatedly promised to charge only a nominal fee of $49 a month and that there would be no upfront fees. But as alleged, Mission charged not only the $49, but also a significant upfront fee equal to 18% of the total monies that its customers owed their creditors. In fact, according to the indictment, for over 1,200 customers, Mission simply took over $2.2 million in fees without ever paying a nickel to any of their creditors. Second, as alleged, Mission lied about its results. Mission typically promised a reduction of 45% in a consumer's debt. But this too, allegedly, was false because Mission did little or no meaningful work to negotiate reductions in debt for many of its customers. It did not have such a track record regarding debt relief, and complaints about Mission's practices from other customers simply abounded. If you just take a look at the visual to my right for a moment, you'll see this sort of depicts what was going on with respect to about 1,200 of the individuals. Mission, as I described, targeted disadvantaged customers, people who, like so many Americans after the financial crisis hit, were riddled with debt, and targeted them through telemarketing and other means. With respect to these individuals, they ultimately got them to agree to a contract with Mission. The customers believed that they were making payments to be kept with a payment processor and held in escrow for a period of time before it would be paid to the creditors to pay down the debt. As alleged in the indictment and in other documents, with respect to these 1,200 individuals, not a penny went from the payment processor, which came originally from the customers, to the creditors, and instead, Mission itself collected $2.2 million in upfront fees, notwithstanding its representation that it would not do that, and in total, with respect to all of its operations, collected about $6.6 million in fees. The third category of misrepresentation that Mission made in an effort to make itself seem more trustworthy was its lies about its relationships and affiliations. For example, according to the indictment, Mission sent a solicitation letter to prospective customers that falsely suggested Mission was acting on behalf of or in connection with a federal government program. And if you take a look at the chart on my left, you'll see a blow-up of that solicitation letter, which was sent to literally thousands of customers. At the top, you'll see that it depicts the Great Seal of the United States in an effort, as we allege, to convince people that this was a government-affiliated debt relief mechanism. Elsewhere on the chart, you will see there's a reference to no upfront fees at the bottom, and it describes itself as an office of disbursement, all of which, as we allege, were led to get unsuspecting consumers who were riddled with debt to buy into this program, which ultimately, as we allege, turned out to be a fraud. In addition, by the way, as alleged, Mission employees told customers that they had gotten the consumer information for those customers from a credit bureau, and that was also false. And so, as alleged, while Mission and its employees were enriching themselves through a nationwide fraud, more than 1,200 of its debt-ridden customers found themselves in even worse shape than when they began. Out-of-pocket, exorbitant fees paid to Mission, not one nickel closer to paying down their debt, and in some cases, facing court action by the very creditors they thought Mission had been paying on their behalf. Now, as with all cases that we announce in connection with arrests, Mission and the individuals charged today are presumed innocent unless and until they are proven guilty. But sadly, the allegations of bad conduct we make today do not seem to be uncommon in the debt settlement industry. And although there are certainly legitimate ways to help consumers settle debt based on ongoing investigations, and this investigation, our concern is that predatory practices pervade the industry. And so we are not finished looking at other bad actors who may be causing a lot of pain to debt-ridden Americans. And so we urge consumers to consult the guidance from the FTC and the CFPB and the Better Business Bureau that we posted on our website before signing up with a debt settlement company. But the fact remains that some bad actors are not deterred simply by warnings and by complaints. Some bad actors require tough law enforcement action. And that's why, although today is the first case we brought based on a referral from the CFPB, it's my prediction that it will not be the last. Now it is my pleasure to call to the podium our partner in this case, the director of the CFPB, Richard Cordray.
Thank you, Preet. It's great to be in this city, which is so central to the consumer financial markets and indeed to the broader global financial system. This city, perhaps more than any other in America, saw and felt the far-reaching effects of the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. That crisis ultimately resulted in the creation of the new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Our mission is to ensure that consumer finance markets actually work for people so that they get the information they need to make responsible financial decisions. We're working to make prices clear up front and to ensure that risks are visible rather than buried in fine print. The financial reform law that created the Bureau also directed us to root out unfair, deceptive, and abusive conduct related to consumer financial products or services. To achieve fair, transparent, and competitive markets, we must have strong and vigilant enforcement. Today, as U.S. Attorney Bharara just explained in detail, we're here to announce that through the joint efforts of the Consumer Bureau, the Department of Justice, and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, we're putting an end to unfair and deceptive practices by certain players in the market for debt relief services. Our actions are aimed to help ensure competitive markets that give honest businesses a fair shot at financial success. Mission Settlement Agency purported to provide debt relief services to consumers, but in reality, we believe it provided little or no benefit to them. We also believe, as was described, that Mission impersonated a government agency and charged unlawful advance fees to consumers, all at the direction of its principal, Michael Levitas. We believe that Mr. Levitas told employees to sign up consumers by any means, including lies about the cost and timing of fees. We find that in this, as in many markets, if you're trying to sell a product or service that has little or no value, the only way to do it successfully is by lying about it or hiding the truth from consumers who otherwise would not purchase it. Our complaint, filed in federal court today, alleges that once consumers were enrolled, Mission charged them unlawful advance fees, but provided little or no value to them in return. Like Mission and Michael Levitas, we believe that Premier Consultant Group and the law office of Michael Lupolover also charged illegal upfront fees that made it difficult and in some cases impossible for consumers to settle their debts. These people are wolves in sheep's clothing. They take money from consumers who've already are struggling to pay the bills, falsely promising them help while really making their problems worse. This is a significant problem in this country today. It's estimated that 30 million Americans coming out of the financial crisis are being chased by debt collectors and perhaps are tempted to go to debt relief services in order to improve their situations. When they don't get help, they are the poor. Consumers deserve better, and we're proud of this joint effort to crack down on unscrupulous behavior. During our investigation, we found evidence of criminal conduct, and accordingly, we referred this information to the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York while we continue to pursue the civil law violations. Partnerships like this one between the Consumer Bureau, the Department of Justice, and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service are integral to our success and our mission. From my experience in state and local government, I've found that strong partnerships can be hard to build, but very often are the best way to get things done. We're especially pleased to be working alongside the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Preet Bharara, to clean up the misconduct charged in these matters. I would like to thank the U.S. Attorney and his team, and I'd like to thank the New York office of the U.S. Postal Inspection Service and their team for their help. In sum, our message today has two parts. First, the specific conduct here was wrong, so we're going to stop it and we're going to fix it. Second, and more broadly, we're signaling today that the federal prosecutors here and across the country are our partners. We will be looking for more occasions to coordinate and collaborate with them. By working in close partnership, we can best protect our citizens. Unquestionably, they deserve to have us standing on their side. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. And now let me call to the podium Inspector in charge of the New York office of the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, Phil Bartlett.
Good morning. For more than 200 years, the United States Postal Inspection Service has been committed to preserving the public's trust in the U.S. mail. As one of our nation's oldest federal law enforcement agency, the United States Postal Inspection Service has a long, proud, and successful history of fighting criminals who attack our nation's postal system or misuse it to defraud, endanger, or otherwise threaten the American public. Today's arrests are prime examples of our agency's commitment to bring to justice those who attempt to bring financial harm to consumers via the U.S. mail. As alleged in the indictment, the defendants used deceptive methods to entice consumers into signing contracts to settle their credit card debt, when in fact they knew consumers were getting little of what was promised in return. This was clearly a crime of opportunity. One of the many things that trouble me about this case, when I read about it a few weeks ago, is that the folks that were victimized in this case, they couldn't afford to lose the money that they did. You have to ask the question, why do consumers do business with a debt settlement company? They do so to get out from under crushing debt and to repair their credit. I think it would be fair to say that the victims in this case were both desperate and vulnerable. The defendants in this case took full advantage of these consumers and tricked thousands of them into doing business with Mission. Our investigation also revealed that one of the defendants, Michael Levitas, used some of the money derived from the fraud scheme to fund a lavish lifestyle. It included purchasing homes, leasing luxury automobiles, and also funding the purchase of a nightclub, which is out near Coney Island. Ironically, he also used funds to pay off the credit card debt of one of his relatives. Postal inspectors want consumers to know there are no guaranteed fixes when it comes to debt settlement. Consumers must read the fine print and never sign a contract until they have taken the time to research the company, especially a company they have never done business with. We recommend researching the company through the Better Business Bureau and/or your local Consumer Affairs Division. If you're a victim of a fraud crime, you need to report it. Contact the United States Postal Inspection Service at 877-876-2455, or you may file a complaint online at www.postalinspectors.uspis.gov. In closing, postal inspectors remind consumers to be guided by the following adage: if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. We're happy to take questions you may have. Yep.
The indictment alleges that Mr. Levitas' mother was the nominal owner of this company, and that she, as the postal inspector just said, benefited from this scheme. Why isn't she being charged?
As you know, we bring charges when we have proof beyond a reasonable doubt that someone committed a crime, and at this moment we have brought charges against the folks that we have identified, and that's all I'll say about that. Yeah.
Just for Mr. Porter, I was curious, do you have an idea of how many other cases to date have been referred to U.S. Attorney's offices here or elsewhere?
By the Consumer Bureau?
Yeah.
There are other instances, and there will be more. And one of the things I want to say today is we're particularly pleased to have the first one of these that comes to public light be a team operation with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, which frankly is filled with some of the most respected and effective prosecutors in this country, and I would say in the history of this country. But it's indicative of we are continuing and will be working with U.S. attorneys across the country and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, which has nationwide reach, all of which will make our work more effective. And I would like to echo what U.S. Attorney Barrara said, which is that civil relief is fine in many cases to fix a problem for specific consumers. But if we're going to deter future violations, the criminal law is a necessary weapon as well, and we won't hesitate to refer cases where we have appropriate factual basis to do so.
Mr. Porter, I wondered if you would address the civil relief you were mentioning that you were bringing. Is that separate with the U.S. Attorney's Office and Mr. Barra bringing another separate civil suit?
Yeah, they're coordinated, I wouldn't quite say parallel, but they are simultaneous actions. We're bringing civil charges. We're seeking relief that would involve restitution, disgorgement of profits, making sure that money as much as possible goes where it should have gone. We're also seeking penalties, which we're entitled to do under the law, and we're seeking injunctive relief to stop this from happening in the future and to ensure that there are specific disabilities on the individuals involved. Having said that, there is nothing to get the attention of people who are dedicating their lives to committing fraud like knowing that they could end up in prison. And that's the weapon that the U.S. Attorney's Office is bringing to this situation today, and we are sure there are going to be many occasions for that teamwork in the future.
case with Mr. Levitis is the second one. It was first charged before that. What kind of charges? Was it related to Senator Kruger?
I'm not going to comment on any other charges that may have been pending or resolved against any one of the defendants here. If there are such things, they're a matter of a public record, and you can consult the public record. Yeah.
There's a second lawyer, Lou Clover, who's sued but not charged, if I read that correctly. Is his role, is he part of this team, and what do you guys know about him?
So we've filed two different civil actions today. There is ongoing work both on the civil side and on the criminal side. It's not appropriate to comment on any of that. We are looking, I will say, that we're looking at these debt relief, debt settlement operations, and some of them are broader operations that involve other parties. And they may involve parties that are engaged in facilitating the payments or other things. We're looking at them as a whole, and we're looking at ways to stop these operations more broadly and not solely at the individual level.
Thanks, everybody.